everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Meditation Millionaire. Wait till you see what I have for you today, or else better said, who I have for you today. I have the amazing Douglas Vermeeran, who is an actor and a film producer from Canada, from Alberta. And I'm going to let him introduce himself a little bit more. Take it away, Douglas.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. This is great. It's kind of neat that this is dealing all with the millionaire mindset and things, because I've done quite a bit of work in the personal development space. For those who know me, I've produced 5 of the top personal development films with most of the gang from The Secret or from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and some of the other big people involved. In fact, our very latest movie is The Science of Getting Rich, which some people know was the book that inspired The Secret, the one that Wallace D. Wattles wrote in 1910. So we've done a lot of work in the money space. Also, my own personal development journey led me to actually earning my first million quite young in my career. So I understand this idea of money mindset. So this could be a really, really fun conversation. But kind of what I'm known best for is I started as an actor in Canada when I was a young man, and I've been acting ever since. I've done about 120 movies, but I've also produced and directed many, including 5 of the top 10 films in the personal development space. So you've got movies like The Secret and What the Bleep Do We Know and all that. But then you've got my movies, The Opus, The Gratitude Experiment, The Treasure Map, How Thoughts Become Things, The Science of Getting Rich. And we've got a couple of others that are on the way. But I'm really excited to look at those things in my life, because, you know, as we've created those films, I've had a chance to sit one-on-one with some of the most incredible teachers on the planet and literally learn firsthand with them and share some of those things in these movies. So again, thanks for having me. This is cool.
Thank you so much for gracing our stage. Meditation Millionaire is just a really wonderful name that I kind of came up with. Someone said, well, if you make them kind of opposite of each other, that's kind of, you know, the best place to go. And I don't think anybody ever correlates meditation. Either you're a meditator and then you're a woo-wooer and money really isn't sort of the priority. And I think, no, money's good. Let's, let's couple it up with the meditation. And plenty of people meditate to make more money. So it's all good, right?
It's fascinating that you say that too, because some of the things that I teach when I'm coaching or talking about money and stuff is that if you want to expand what you have to start by expanding who you are. And one of the programs that I offered for a long time was called the Millionaire Mind Stretch. And I want that to sink in from it, mind stretch, because the reality is a lot of people talk about the millionaire mindset. And that idea of being set in a mindset means that you're immovable. You're not changing. You're set. You're in place. But that's exactly the opposite of what you need to be a millionaire. In fact, if you're ever going to expand again to this idea of more than you are, you actually must stretch. And so one of the first lessons that I learned as a young man is that everything that I thought was the right answer needs to be receptive to change. Wow. Because there are people who know more than me, who understand more than me, who already have, bigger things going on in their life than me. In fact, here, I'll tell you a funny story that I think will really hit this home. So when I was a young man, just kind of beginning my journey as an entrepreneur, I started meeting with top achievers and top business leaders wherever I could find them. And there was one man that I was very, very interested to have him support me on my business journey. So I quickly wrote out what I thought was a business plan and all of these kind of things. And I brought it to him, and we met for lunch. And he kind of looked through my business plan. He says, well, you might want to change that. And I said, no. That's there for a reason. And he kind of rolled his eyes a bit and turned the page and kept going. A few minutes later, he found something else. He says, you might want to change that. And I was like, no, again. And he said, okay, kept going. Finally, he came to another point and also invited me to change that or rethink it. And again, I defended it. Finally, he shut the book and he said, you can either be rich or you can be right. What would you like to be? And then he opened up this bank thing that he had. And he said, this is my current bank balance. He said, what's yours? And I was stunned because at the time I was broke. I literally had probably negative or at least $100 in an account, and his was in the millions, literally. And then he said this, he says, your bank balance is actually the report card on how well you understand this stuff. So if you want some help, maybe become a student rather than the teacher if you're not yet getting the results that you want. And for me, that was really, really profound. That the truth of the matter is it really shifted my life into becoming a full-time teacher. And I think one of the most important things that I've recognized as I've interviewed millionaires and billionaires is that they listen before they talk. And I'll never forget, I was in the living room of Bill Farley, who some of you might have heard that name. He was the former owner of Fruit of the Loom Underwear, Christian Dior, Jordache Jeans, Gitano Sportswear, California Citrus. He was Oprah Winfrey's neighbor. The list goes on of the accomplishments of this fellow. And I shared a business idea with him once. We were sitting in his living room, and rather than give me an answer, I'll never forget, he quickly just picked up the phone, called the number and said, "Get everybody in here." And a group of about 5 people stormed the room, like almost like that. And he said, "Explain your idea again." So I explained it, and then he asked each one of them for their opinion. And then without commenting on it, he just said, "Okay, thanks, guys." They left, and he sat there for a minute, and then he's like, "It's a good idea, but you might want to think about this." And I just thought, what a profound thing that even before he would give me his opinion on something so precious to me, and I thought I had it all figured out, he called in and got advisors to kind of share their insights with him. And he didn't necessarily agree with everybody, but now he had the full answer of what to do. And I think that this is the interesting thing, is that if you think about money, if we're talking about it from a money mindset point of view or mind stretch point of view, I think too many people are hasty to spend. And I think, they say compound interest is the most powerful thing in the universe. It's not. The ability to delay immediate gratification is. So it's not how much money you make, it's how you spend it that will make a difference. And if we will simply pause and say, okay, what could be the outcome of this? And where can I get the best advice so I can do the best things with my money and my time and my efforts and everything else? I think we'd find that we're going to see a bigger, better result for us in the end. In fact, here's another interesting story just to kind of leave your listeners with some value. So when I did my interviews with the top achievers, a guy that really became like a grandfather to me was a man by the name of Frank McGuire. And some of you might have heard that name before. In fact, Frank is probably best known as one of the 4 founders of Federal Express, the company FedEx. But he was also the marketing director for KFC for many, many years. He was the marketing director for American Airlines for many, many years. He was the guy that got JFK elected, so he was on his press team. And he worked in the White House under JFK and Lyndon B. Johnson. And funny enough, as a coincidence, he also was a philosophy tutor to Marilyn Monroe. And he was also friends with my second cousin, Elvis Presley. So Elvis is one of my cousins, but Frank was friends with him when they were in Memphis doing FedEx. Anyways, so I was at a speaking event with Frank. Boy, that's a long intro to get to this nugget, but I promise it's worth it. So hang on. So I was at a speaking event with Frank McGuire. And as we were getting ready to leave to go to the airport, there was a young bellboy, a bellhop or whatever you call them, who helped put our luggage into the vehicle to head to the airport. And then he came around the car and he had his hand out for a tip. And Frank pulled out a $5 bill and he held out this $5 bill and the young boy grabbed it. But Frank didn't let go. I thought, what a weird thing. But he was trying to get this kid's attention. And then Frank said to him, still holding on to the bill, he says, "What is this that I'm giving you?" And the kid kind of sheepishly looked down at the $5 bill and goes, $5? And Frank said, "What's it worth?" And the kid didn't know how to answer that. So I said, $5. And I'll never forget this. Frank said, "No, it all depends on what you do with it next." And isn't that powerful? If you think about every dime that's ever been through your hand is actually a seed. And what is it worth? Well, to some people, they just go and they blow it on quick Starbucks or whatever, or, they, gamble it away, or they put it somewhere and they don't know where it went. So to them, that $5 probably wasn't even worth $5 anyways. But then you've got other people who take $5 and every penny that they get and they use it to some capacity to create something more, to increase the value of it. So every dollar is a seed, but that also comes back to that idea that I just talked about, that unless you're a student and you're willing to listen, you're willing to learn, and you're willing to take advice from people who've done great things with those seeds, they know how to use those seeds, how to plant those seeds, how to nurture those seeds and cause them to grow. Until you're ready to start doing that, $5 may be just $5 or less. And so I think that this is it's been a really powerful lesson for me, is to always be on the lookout for who can I learn from and how can I best use my resources. Once you spent $1, it's spent. You cannot ever get it back. So I think it's always a better thing to spend on something that will give you a return. And as part of my life, I'm always looking for how can I learn how to get better returns, not just on the money I spend, but everything that I do, right? Isn't that life? We want to always improve, expand.
Always. And wouldn't it be wonderful if this is what they taught in schools?
Well, I think the reason they don't teach it in schools, if we're being quite frank, I don't think it's a malicious thing. Like some people say they're trying to keep us hidden from a big, dark secret that, the government doesn't want you to know or whoever. I don't think that that's it at all. I think the truth is they just don't know how to teach it because they don't understand it. You can't really teach something until you're living it. And if you look at most teachers, bless their heart, and I've got so many teachers, and so do you, that affected your life in some positive way, that helped you see something about yourself. I think that's the gift of a teacher, to sometimes help people see certain things. But if a teacher doesn't yet understand that themselves, they can't teach it. And so that's why I think it becomes, so important that things like personal development and seeking out a mentor and seeking out the specific mentors, because the truth of the matter is even the teacher at school, they don't know your full potential. They don't know your destiny. They don't know what your dreams and passions are. So just to be kind to those teachers, how can they nurture something they don't understand? And so it really becomes your duty to seek out the mentor that's right for you, not show up in a classroom and he didn't teach me, so it's his fault. Like, who can I find that actually resonates with my dreams? And you need to actively go and look for those people. And I think that that's a prerequisite to success. First of all, understanding what you're looking for and what you need. And then you have to go and find those teachers. But the one thing that I have found after interviewing more than 400 of the world's top achievers, and still even now surrounding myself with people that lift me higher, those people don't fall into your life by accident. You need to go and find them. And sometimes you need to hire them. Sometimes it requires a sacrifice on your part, whether you got to travel someplace or you've got to, pay for a training or a workshop or, it's funny. There's a lot of celebrities that I've met, and working in the movie business, there's a lot of big events and things that I get invited to. And I've had a chance to meet people like Oprah Winfrey and Ellen DeGeneres, and yes, even Donald Trump before he was president, and all kinds of other, like I'm just saying that as an example. You may or may not like those people, and that's your choice. But I'm saying people at those higher levels, right? And sometimes there is an admission cost to get close to those people. And if you really want to increase that likelihood that you can learn from people at a higher level after you've identified who you need to learn from, it is an effort to go and get yourself in the same room with those people. And they are available, but sometimes there are things you're going to have to do. And I think that that's a big lesson that's missing, right? The truth is you can learn from anybody that you want to if you're willing to pay the price.
Right. And it's a little bit, it just reminded me of some of my clients that would ask me, well, how do I get on to Forbes and Inc. and Success? And how do I get onto all these magazines? And I said, well, there are, publicity companies that will get you on there. You pay and you go on there. And they're like, well, no, I don't want to pay. I'm like, okay.
Well, they're fools. I'll be honest with you. Then they're entirely fools, because the reality is until you market out to the world who you are, they'll never know you. But can I also tell you something? Forbes will come to you as well. So there is a different kind of price that you need to pay. You can either get out there and do something great where you're newsworthy and people want to hear about you, or you can actually put a little bit of money there and get a shortcut. But either way, you are going to pay to be there. Like the news, if they've got something valuable where, millions of people are watching that magazine or what have you, why would they put you on the cover if either you're not doing something great or you're not compensating them to do so? There's no reason why they should cover you. So first of all, stop feeling entitled. That's what I'm going to say is if you want to do something great, if you look at any successful person in the history of the world, they are not entitled. They are hard workers, and they understand that there is a price to be paid. And let's be honest, if we take even in my field, say somebody like Tom Cruise, I think he's an amazing person, an amazing actor, an amazing stunt person, an amazing producer. But why did we get to see Mission Impossible? Not because somebody picked him. He actually paid for that. Look at the credits, who is producing that film, and that's Tom Cruise putting his money where his mouth is. So I guess this is a question too for people. If you've got something that the world needs to know about, If you sincerely believe that, you should have no problem putting your money where your mouth is and getting behind your own brand and creating your own brand. Everywhere in the world, that idea of marketing and telling people who you are and where they can find you is 90% of how an expert, especially in the coaching and speaking and personal development field, comes about. It is 90% marketing. And I'm sure that many of you already have seen this, where there is some people who are better at marketing than teaching, but those ones who are better at marketing always get the visibility. And maybe you're at home thinking right now, well, I've got better materials and coaching than that guy, but nobody's ever heard of you. Well, why? It's because he's better at marketing than you. And maybe you need to learn from those people so that your coaching can receive the recognition that it probably deserves. So I'm just going to say, this is a business, guys, right? If you think about life or what have you as like the library or even the internet, if people don't know where to find your book in the library, they'll never read your book. If they don't know how to find your URL on the internet or your social media, they'll never find you. It doesn't matter how good you are. You need to have that as part of your strategy. And if you believe truly in what you do, you'll never have a problem putting money behind your brand. Anyways, there's my 2 cents for the day on that.
No, that's so important. And you know what, especially the newer entrepreneurs and people who want to get out there. I have a publishing company and I have to go through this all the time. People think that publishing is the way it is in the movies. Like, oh, I just come to you, you like my story and you publish it. And no, you pay me and I publish it.
Right.
Because you're not, I don't know, what's that movie with what's her name? Julia Roberts.
Which one?
Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh yeah, Eat, Pray, Love, sure.
I can't think of the author's name, and I'm like, because you're not her, because you're not Harry Potter, because you're not there yet.
Here's a thing to think about. Even if we take the example of Harry Potter, the reality is that book never would have got published unless they felt there was an audience for this and the hard work that J.K. Rowling put in. So this is it. You still have to pay either way. She put all these hours into building that universe and that world, and guaranteed she tested it with people around her and she talked to people. But it also wasn't an instant success. As it rolled out, she had to now get out there and do the interviews and the PR and all the things that made Harry Potter a big thing. So I think this is it. Back to this adage that everybody's heard. There's no such thing as an overnight success if you really get a chance to look behind the curtain. Even if I look at my own movie career, I started when I was 7 years old, and I've been acting ever since. And I've done over 100 movies and tons of other TV stuff. I feel like I'm a success because I get to do what I would like to do. But compared to, say, Brad Pitt, nobody knows who I am. Right? And I'm not saying that that's even my journey. I don't need to be everywhere, right? I don't need to be as visible as him. But the success that I'm experiencing resonates with me. So I think that's the first thing. You need to decide what success looks like. And then you need to, maybe let me put it this way. I'm going to teach you guys something that I found that changed my life. So when I went out and I interviewed all these top achievers, one of the things I want to know is how they got to their goals, right? Would that be something you'd want to learn? Like if you met somebody who's like, again, one of the founders of FedEx, or the people who are the co-founders of Ted Baker, or the founders of UGG boots, like Brian Smith, for example, would it be interesting to know how they got to their goals?
Yes.
Well, I wanted to know that too. So I put them on the spot. I said, how, if I write down a goal, how am I going to get there? And I had one of these people point me in a really interesting direction that changed everything for me. He basically led me to something that Aristotle used to teach. Now, Aristotle was a contemporary of Socrates, you'll remember. And he taught something called the law of probability. You'll want to write this down. Now, the first thing I'll share is that Aristotle said that which is probable is most likely to happen. Now, that sounds silly on the surface. That which is probable is most likely to happen. Well, of course it is. But as I investigated more, I found an analogy that he used at one point where he said, if you had a target at the other end of, say, a field, and I'm paraphrasing now, and a bow and arrow, let's say you were 100 yards away, what are your chances of hitting that target? Well, from 100 yards, I'm not a really good archer. So chances are I would miss it entirely. But think about this. If you were able to take a step forward, so the 100-yard distance now shrinks just a little bit, what would happen to your chances? Well, your chances would increase, right? And what if you could do that again? Well, again, your chances again would increase. So the closer you could get to that target more often, the more likely it is that you're going to bullseye and you're going to hit that target. So what does the exercise for goal setting become? First of all, a goal that is specific and clear becomes attainable and near. So we need to identify it. That's number one. What's the target? A goal that is specific and clear becomes attainable and near. Now, the next question is, how can I increase the probability that I'll hit that target by getting closer to it? Again, increasing the probability. So there's a few ways you can do that. First of all, you've heard that you become like the 5 people you surround yourself with. So you're going to start putting the people that are close to that target in your life, right? So for example, if it's me looking to do bigger blockbuster type movies, I'm going to start hanging around with the people that are in those movies, that are producing those movies, that are writing those movies, that are all of a sudden the chances that I'll be included in there, the probability increases. Maybe also it's geography. So if you want to be, again, in the movie business, I'm just using this as an example because this is what I know best. It's probably better for me to be connected to a place like Los Angeles than it is for me to be out in Zimbabwe somewhere. Agreed, right? So I can put myself, again, close to the proximity. So where are the activities happening that are more in harmony with the goals that you want? Now, by the way, same thing here. Let's just use it simple. Let's say your goal is just to become more fit, to lose weight. Well, maybe one of the places you need to go is the gym. It's a great idea, right? Maybe one of the places you don't need to go is McDonald's. And I'll let you decide. You can interpret that however you want, right? So in addition to the people and the places you need to go, what are you doing to increase the knowledge that you have about this field? For me, I'm always learning about the movie business and the trends in my industry and the things that are going on. I'm constantly reading about it, watching YouTube videos about it, listening to blog posts and podcasts about it. I'm filling my mind to the brim with so much of this information. Now, by the way, it's not just so I become smart. It's so when I do go to those locations and I meet those people, I can be a valuable contributor to the conversation that's going on. And they see that I am already ready to participate in these things. I'm increasing my probability, right? And anyways, there's 100 other things that we can do to increase our probability. We just talked about one a minute ago with these people who are afraid to pay to be on Forbes magazine. Well, you can, again, purchase your way to be in the likely places where those that can help you with those goals will find you and see you. And again, maybe hire you for coaching or to become customers for you. So the reality is you have power within your hands. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to increase the likelihood that people will find you near that target that you're trying to achieve? And another thing that I will say that is really, really important, and you can see this if you look at the Academy Awards where someone comes up and they say, I'd like to thank people for this award. You can see it in the history of any great success. All great successes are done by a team, never by an individual. If you think of a person holding that award, they didn't write the script on the movie they're holding the award from. They didn't do hair and makeup that day. They didn't shoot the thing. They aren't the editor. They aren't the other actors. The list goes on and on. Same with when Sir Edmund Hillary, the first person who climbed Mount Everest, and everybody recognizes him. If you Google that name, Sir Edmund Hillary, you'll see that he climbed Mount Everest. But you know what? He had someone carrying his pack up the hill. He had a group of people bringing supplies. He had people who funded that expedition. He had people who helped map the course. It's the same thing if you were to grab a CD, let's say from somebody like Michael Jackson, or even, Elvis Presley, my cousin, and you look and his name is on the cover. He gets the credit. But if you open it up, he didn't write all the songs and he didn't play all the instruments and he didn't do the sound engineering and the mixing, and he certainly didn't take his own picture for the cover. So everything is a team effort. So don't be afraid to go get help. And back to this idea, sometimes help can cost money. But you know what? I love what one of my friends said when I interviewed him, Stefan Arnio. He and I became really good friends, and he was one of the top real estate producers in Canada. Literally millions and millions of dollars of real estate. But he said that he shared every single deal and he didn't care who got the credit. And I remember this one quote from him. He said, would you rather have a whole grape or half of a watermelon? Well, the truth of the matter is if you've got other people helping you and getting involved, you can move faster, you can move higher, and you can move quicker. You can move at greater scale than if you could do it on your own. So I think one of the biggest things if you want to be successful is you got to stop being selfish. And you got to surround yourself with people who are prepared to help you on your mission. And I think that's a big thing. That increases your probability again, right? Like, how can you find someone who's already there? In fact, here's a funny story. And I know I keep going off on these segments, but hopefully they're useful for you. I was chatting with another person when I was quite young about my businesses. And when I was, sharing him this business plan, I literally was nervous about how I was going to launch this. I was just a 19-year-old kid. And I said, well, how am I going to find my customers? How am I going to find someone to help me with my marketing? Or no, let me rephrase that. How I said it is, how am I going to do my marketing? How am I going to find my customers? How am I going to do my distribution? How am I? And I'll never forget, he stopped me and he goes, oh, I can tell you're going to start a really small business. I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, you're asking selfish questions. I said, well, selfish questions? What do you mean by that? And I'm not going to start a small business. He goes, no. It's going to be a small business and you're asking selfish questions. I said, well, what should I be asking then? He goes, well, right now you're asking, how can I find my customers? How can I do my marketing? How can I? He says, instead, you need to ask who already has your customers, right? Who can you partner with? Who can you be part of a team with that already has your customers? And how can you find who's already doing your marketing, like the kind of marketing that you need? So rather than learning something from brand new, why don't you find someone who's already got it figured out? And that'll escalate you higher to success faster than you could imagine. So again, this whole idea of a team is revolutionary. And it just changed my thinking that I don't need to be the only guy involved in this. And I think if you can connect with people who already have things in motion in the direction that you want to go towards your target, again, your probability increases. So hopefully that's helpful anyways.
Are you kidding? I love that. My whole company is called Empowered, and I refer to it as the Empowered Group because I spell it with an MP without the E because those are my initials, and I thought that'd be cool. And so my newest thing is Empowered Together, and it's going to be my non-for-profit and everything. So I love the whole group community. Everybody be happy, everybody prosper together. Let's just make the world a better place, period. Oh my gosh, we're almost at the end of our series. Douglas, you are so amazing. Who here wants Douglas back? I say we get him back because there's so much that I still want to learn. I have notes. Okay, people, I have notes. I've been taking notes. You should have been taking notes too. You missed out if you didn't. We will definitely get Douglas back. I do want to ask you a question, if that's okay. 2 questions. One, what is next for you?
Oh, cool. Actually, next week I head on another movie that I'm starting called Cowboy Bloodbath. Yes, it sounds super friendly. It's basically John Wick in the forest. And it's kind of funny that even if you look on that chair there, I've got a gun belt that's there. I'm having to learn how to do all the nifty gun tricks and stuff. So that I start next Wednesday. And then I've got a TV series that I'm going to be doing here like almost directly after that. And then I know this is so crazy because I love personal development and the inspiration of things, but I also have acted in a lot of horror movies that are completely the different emotion from inspiration. And some of you may have heard that Mickey Mouse is now public domain. So I play one of the lead roles in a brand new horror movie that features Mickey Mouse as the villain. So I don't know, it should be fun. But here's the deal is I feel like I'm living my dreams, which is to storytell. That's what acting is. And in fact, that even I believe to some extent that's what teaching is storytelling. And so I feel very blessed I get to do that. Obviously, I do like those kind of scary films as well. But here's the deal is storytelling is about evoking emotion. So sometimes it's going to be friendly, happy emotions and inspiring things like what we've done in the personal development films we've created. But then other times it will be suspenseful and thriller type emotions that fit within us. And I think, that to me, I love that spectrum. And I'm not saying that you as a viewer have to like that, but I find it really fulfilling and challenging to kind of play things along the entire spectrum of, emotions in this idea of storytelling. So I'm pretty excited. And again, if that's not for you, don't come watch it, I guess. But there are some fun ones that I've done too. I play lots of police officers and I play a lot of hitmen, a lot of gunslingers, a lot of military guys, just lots of fun things. Whatever. If people ask me, what kind of movies do you do? And I say only the ones I'd like to see.
That's right. I love it. I love that. I think that's beautiful. So stay tuned, everybody. One final question. I asked this question of all of my guests, and then we'll close out. If you could have 1 hour, sit down, have a coffee with anyone, dead or alive, famous or otherwise, who would that be and why?
Wow, that's a really good question. There's lots and lots and lots of people that I would love to have had coffee with. And there's also people that I did know and that I met that I would like to sit down with again and even just to thank them. Maybe because it's kind of recent and I've been talking about these guys to others. So Dennis Waitley was a really good friend of mine who you guys remember from The Secret. He was also in one of my films. I would love to sit with Dennis again and just thank him for some of the really great moments. Obviously, Frank McGuire that I just mentioned would be incredible to sit with and thank him for things. Bob Proctor was always really special to me and like a grandpa to me. In fact, he wrote the foreword on 5 of my books and starred in 3 of my movies. There's so many people, and then also people that I was related to, like Elvis is one of them. I'd love to sit with him and see what his advice was for me. And I don't know who it would be. I mean, I just feel really blessed that I've had a chance to meet some incredible people as it is, and a lot of the people that I met, I miss. So I don't know. It's a tough way to answer that, right?
It's good. You did answer it. And I'm going to tell you that I usually ask for 5 people. And I thought, in the interest of time, I'm only going to ask for 1. And you actually gave 5. And
okay.
On a Bob Proctor note, I actually, many years ago, am in a book with you, one of your books with Bob Proctor and Dr. John DeMartini, who I love and adore. And that was so much fun, and what a great book. So
you know, it's funny, just speak about Bob for a quick second. It's hilarious. So this morning I was talking with another friend of mine about Bob. You know, we've both got fond memories of him, and he was always so kind to me. And I was going through some of the pictures that I had of Bob. And there's 2 things, maybe. One, we were together at one of his paradigm shifts, and we were up in his hotel room, and we were shooting for, I think it would have been the movie How Thoughts Become Things at the time. And we started talking about the law of attraction says that everything vibrates at a frequency. We've heard this before. And so I asked him, what is it actually vibrates? What is it that's vibrating? What causes that? And he said something really interesting to me. He said that everything that is vibrating is a manifestation of different degrees of love and gratitude. And I thought that was interesting, because if we think about it, when we're at a high vibration and things are going well, we're always full of love and gratitude. But when things suck, we're right? And so it kind of taught me that I have the power to change that frequency very quickly by just tapping into love and gratitude. And it changes everything. And it's worked. So that's lesson number 1. The other thing that was funny is, as I was going through these pictures, I ran into my favorite picture of Bob and I. And you'll never guess kind of where it was. In fact, I'll share it with you in a text coming up here. Anyways, I was walking through the casino. It must have been, I think, Caesar's Palace. And all of a sudden, I felt this hand on my shoulder. And I turned around, and it was Bob. And he didn't say hi or anything. He hugged me. And he goes, I can't believe I ran into you here. And so, of all places in the casino, now get this, what I said back was kind of funny too, but it was silly, right? Because we were just so close with things. And I said, wow, imagine that, meeting the king of law of attraction when I need him most in the casino.
Good
Now,
one.
needless to say, we didn't go gambling, but it's just such a funny picture, because here Bob and I are with all these slot machines around us and gambling tables, and it's just kind of funny. But needless to say, we didn't do any gambling, but he laughed about that. I laughed about it, and it was just a good memory. So
It's
really
a good place to manifest. Don't knock it. Anyway, we are going to have to end, because I have an appointment and you have an appointment.
Right.
More importantly, you're going to be late, because we just
We'll be back. We'll be back.
We'll be back very soon. I don't know. I don't have a date for you. Just stay tuned on here, and you can always find him on my YouTube and also on Traverse TV. So thank you so much, Douglas. You are literally the perfect guest. I will have you back anytime. In fact, I believe next time we should just go for an hour, because there's so much. You have so much to share and gift people that it would be a shame to not.
Thank you. You had fun.
Thank you so much. And have a great day, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us.
You take care.
Thank you.